The crash. Lieutenant Ryland Voss came to consciousness with a sharp gasp and the taste of blood in his mouth. The cockpit around him was cracked open like a dropped egg, wires dangling like shredded nerves, smoke curling from ruptured conduits. His dropship had plummeted through the atmosphere of an uncharted moon during the failed assault on Virex Cluster 7. The rest of his platoon hadn't made it. He'd watched their signals blink out one by one as the swarm overtook their formation. He was alone. "Status report," he muttered, coughing into his helmet MIC. The AI responded in a clipped, fractured voice. "Hull integrity, 8%. Life support, failed. Communications, offline. Medical scan, 2 fractured ribs, minor concussion, no internal bleeding. Warning, biocontamination protocols in effect." Ryland ripped off the cracked helmet and staggered out into the murky daylight. A thick jungle pressed around the crash site, twisted with red vines and pulsing fungi. Alien birds, or what passed for them, flitted overhead, screeching like broken machinery. The air smelled like burning copper and ozone. He tapped the side of his head. No signal. No GPS. No evac beacon. He was marooned. Ryland grabbed his survival pack, slung his rifle over his shoulder, and began the grim task of salvaging gear. If the swarm found him, it would be over in seconds. He'd seen what they did to survivors, what passed for mercy in a hive mind. A sharp hiss cut through the jungle. He froze. The sound came again, wet, ragged, close. Not an animal. Not Virex. Something else. He followed the noise through the underbrush and stumbled into a shallow ravine. There, crumpled beside a shattered escape pod, was a body. Not human. The figure was tall and willowy, wrapped in torn gray robes woven with shimmering threads. Blue-green skin shimmered faintly in the dim light, marred by deep gashes leaking violet blood. White hair, matted with dirt and gore, spilled around a crown-like bone crest on her forehead. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, irregular breaths. An alien woman. Her eyes fluttered open as he approached, pale silver irises locking onto him with a mix of pain and caution. She tried to speak but coughed instead, blood flecking her lips. Ryland dropped to one knee. "Hey, I'm not here to hurt you." She blinked slowly, as if parsing his words through a translator implant. Then her hand twitched toward a small device clutched in her robes. "I wouldn't waste energy," he said gently. "If that's a weapon, I'm faster. If it's a distress beacon, it's probably as dead as mine." The alien woman gave a weak, humorless sound, almost a laugh. Ryland scanned her wounds. The bleeding wasn't slowing. Her veins were darkening, skin temperature dropping fast. She was dying. He pulled out a medkit. "All right, let's see what we can do." Her hand clamped weakly onto his wrist. "No, won't take," she whispered. "I'm not asking permission," Ryland said. He sprayed coagulant foam into the worst of her wounds, wrapped her side with bandages, and administered a stim injector. Nothing worked. Her vitals continued to plummet. Her body wasn't accepting human medicine. Different physiology, maybe even different base elements. His eyes caught the inside of her arm, where a transparent vein pulsed weakly beneath the skin. Her blood looked thin, transparent violet, barely circulating. She needed a transfusion. He hesitated. It was insane. Cross-species transfusion was forbidden for a reason. Too many unknowns. Allergic rejection, toxicity, biochemical mismatch. He could kill her faster than the wound was. But she was already dying. "Protocol be damned," he muttered. Ryland pulled out a microtubing kit and a Type A blood pack from his emergency stores. It wasn't much, but if her body could handle it, even a little, it might stabilize her long enough to figure out a better solution. She watched him, eyes half-lidded. "Why?" she rasped. "Because you're alive," he said. "And that's reason enough." He connected the tubing to her vein and manually regulated the flow. The first few seconds were tense. Her body tensed, then relaxed. A slight glow radiated from the place where the blood entered. Her skin flushed a warmer hue. Her breathing grew steadier. Then, her entire body arched violently. Alarms in his med scanner blared. Her heart rate spiked. Neural activity surged. What the hell? Her eyes flew open, bright silver, almost white now. She gripped his arm with startling strength, her voice a whisper of awe. It's merging. What is? Your blood. It's rewriting me. Ryland stared, unsure whether to stop the transfusion or let it finish. You're stabilizing, he asked. She nodded slowly. Not just stabilizing. Adapting. He cut the flow as her vitals began to normalize. Already her skin was taking on a slightly warmer tone. Her breath no longer wheezed. She sat up slowly, pain still etched across her face, but alive. I am Serah'tel, she said. Lieutenant Ryland Voss, Human Defense Corps. They sat in silence for a moment, the forest eerily quiet around them. Serah'tel looked at him, an unreadable expression on her face. You should not have done that. It may change more than you realize. Ryland gave her a tired smile. Yeah, well, humanity's never been great at following the rules. A dangerous gamble. Ryland sat beside the alien woman, Serah'tel, watching the makeshift transfusion kit pulse its last drop of red into her arm. Her skin, once a pale iridescent blue, now shimmered faintly with undertones of warmth, like a sunrise creeping through frost. She flexed her fingers, testing them. It's working, but it shouldn't. Ryland leaned back against a rock, exhausted. I'll take shouldn't over dead any day. Serah'tel studied him, her silver eyes no longer dull with blood loss. You risked contamination. Cross-species transfer is forbidden. Sacred law forbids it. Ryland exhaled through his nose. Funny, human law doesn't exactly encourage it either. A silence stretched between them, thick, but not hostile. The jungle buzzed softly with unseen life. You don't understand what you've done, she said finally, her voice steadier. My people believe blood holds the essence of being. To accept in others is to risk becoming something else. Corruption. Blending. It's profane. Ryland shrugged. I didn't do it for your religion. I did it because you were dying, and because I couldn't stomach walking away. Serah'tel looked at her arm again. The vein glowed faintly now, pulsing not with sickness, but with something vibrant, alive. This planet is neutral ground, she said. No faction days colonize it. Too volatile, too unknown. The Virex only come here to scavenge for mutagenic material. Well, they shot me down, so I'd say they're not just window shopping, Ryland muttered. She nodded grimly. They attacked my envoy ship too. I'm an emissary. We came to monitor their expansion. I was the only survivor. He narrowed his eyes. So why haven't they finished the job? I don't think they knew what I was carrying. Now they might. She lowered her voice. They evolve. Rapidly. But it's directed, purpose-built. Artificial. You're something else. What's that supposed to mean? Serah'tel shifted with effort, trying to rise. Ryland instinctively reached out to steady her, but she waved him off and stood, wobbling slightly. She looked down at her hands. I feel stronger, clearer. My body is assimilating your blood, but not passively. It's learning from it and changing me. Ryland watched her closely. Her movements were already different. Less deliberate, more reactive. Instinctual. That's concerning, he said carefully. No, she replied. It's impossible. Her gaze turned inward, focused on something distant. Your blood carries not just proteins and antibodies. It's saturated with chaotic data. Fragments. Genetic versatility. Your kind isn't just adaptable. You invite mutation. You thrive on it. Ryland frowned. We just call it being stubborn. Serah'tel gave a soft laugh, surprising him. Then your stubbornness may be more than personality. It might be your biology. It refuses to die cleanly. A distant thump rumbled through the jungle. The ground trembled faintly beneath them. Ryland's hand dropped to his rifle. That wasn't thunder. Serah'tel tensed. Virex. They ducked instinctively beneath a fallen log as a shadow swept overhead. A black, buzzing drone skimming low through the canopy. It paused above the crash site, scanning. Its long proboscis twitched, analyzing the air. Serah'tel whispered, they are hunting for mutation signatures. I'm radiating one now. Ryland gritted his teeth. Then we need to move. Fast. They waited for the drone to drift away before crawling back out. Rylan led them east, toward a jagged ridge where his HUD map had detected metallic signatures, maybe old comm towers or wreckage. Shelter, supplies, hope. As they moved, Serah'tel's body continued changing. Her steps grew surer. Her wounds had closed entirely. The silvery patterns in her skin pulsed gently, like circuitry beneath the flesh. "Do you feel all right?" Rylan asked, not hiding his wariness. "I feel awake," she said. "More than I've ever been." They paused at the ridge base. A rusted bulkhead jutted from the earth like a fossil, part of an old outpost, now mostly buried. Rylan pried the door open with effort, revealing a narrow tunnel sloping downward. Inside, the air was stale but breathable. Dim red emergency lights flickered weakly. Old storage crates, wiring, and tech fragments littered the chamber. "This should buy us time," Rylan said. Serah'tel stepped inside and leaned against the wall, visibly shaken despite her earlier confidence. "I can feel it happening," she whispered. "Something deeper. Your cells didn't just help me heal. They're communicating with mine." "You make it sound like a conversation," Rylan said, rummaging through a crate. "It is. Your body, your blood, it didn't ask permission. It offered guidance. Not dominance. Not infection. It's cooperative." She turned to face him. "We feared your kind because you resist order. But perhaps that resistance is exactly what this galaxy needs." Rylan pulled out a sealed ration pack and tossed it to her. "Let's just focus on surviving the next few hours before we start rewriting evolution." She caught the pack with swift reflexes, far faster than before. She seemed surprised by her own hand. They sat in silence for a few minutes, eating. The dull thrum of Virex drones patrolling outside made every bite taste like tension. Finally, Serah'tel said, "There's a concept in my culture, Jiralkai. It means the point where survival ends and transformation begins. A place where the old self must die for the new one to live." She looked at him, her eyes almost glowing now. "I think your blood brought me to that place." Rylan chewed slowly, then nodded. "Well, let's hope whoever you're becoming can still shoot straight. Because I think the swarm just found us." Echoes in the flesh. The night inside the buried outpost was long and restless. Rylan sat against the cold wall, rifle cradled in his lap, eyes scanning the dim entry tunnel lit only by flickering red lights. Serah'tel lay on a foam mat across from him, but she wasn't sleeping. Not exactly. She breathed slow, steady, too steady. Her chest barely moved. Every few minutes, her fingers twitched in rhythmic patterns, like they were typing commands onto invisible keys. He glanced down at his med scanner. Her vitals weren't just stable, they were optimal. Inhumanly so. Rylan leaned his head back against the wall. "You awake?" "Yes," she replied, voice low but alert. "How long since you slept?" "I don't know." She sat up, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "I don't feel the need to anymore." He frowned. "That's not normal." "No," she agreed. "It isn't." Serah'tel rose slowly, her robe falling aside to reveal the mottled changes in her skin, soft gold lace with branching patterns of silver. Her once delicate frame now held a quiet power. Muscles coiled under her flesh like they had been refined overnight. Her movements were smooth, exact. "Your blood," she said, "is a catalyst. But it doesn't just repair. It reimagines." She held up her hand and closed her fingers into a fist. With a soft click, energy sparked at her wrist. Her nanoweave had reactivated, fueled by whatever transformation she was undergoing. "I shouldn't be able to do this," she murmured, flexing her hand. "These systems require synchronized mind-to-tech interfaces, calibrated for Ellerin genetics." Rylan sat forward. "You mean you're syncing with tech designed for your old DNA?" "Yes, but now it's more flexible. Like my body is reaching out and reshaping itself to meet whatever it touches." He gave a slow whistle. "You're becoming a chameleon." "No," she said, almost to herself. "Something new." There was a pause. Then she looked at him, truly looked. "And I'm afraid." That surprised him. "Afraid of what?" Her voice dropped. "Losing who I was. What if, in adapting to your blood, I become too far removed from myself? What if I lose my people, my history, my name? Ryland set his rifle down gently and stood. Look, I don't know much about alien genetics or bioadaptation or any of that. But I do know this: you're not losing yourself. You're surviving. And from what I can tell, you're doing it better than most. Her silver eyes searched his, uncertain. And for the record, he added, you still sound like Serah'tel to me. A faint smile tugged at the corners of her lips. A sudden pulse in his wrist comp interrupted the moment. Motion detected. 40 meters. Approaching. Ryland raised his rifle. We've got movement. Serah'tel didn't hesitate. She reached to her side, materializing a slim blade of compacted light from her wrist gauntlet. Drones. Not sure. Small. Might be scouts. They moved together toward the entry tunnel, quiet as ghosts. Ryland peeked around the corner and froze. A small Virex crawler, one of their biomech hybrids, was skittering across the outpost floor, its many legs moving with eerie precision. Behind it, 3 more emerged from the dark. They hadn't entered yet. They were scanning the threshold, confused. Do you see that? Serah'tel whispered. They're hesitating. They shouldn't be, Ryland said. They should have rushed in by now. Serah'tel narrowed her eyes. They're detecting something. Something that doesn't make sense. They're detecting you, Ryland realized. She stepped forward. Wait, Serah. But she moved like liquid light, crossing into the open without fear. The drones locked onto her, legs twitching, weapons arming, then paused. A long second passed. Then they backed away. Holy hell, Ryland breathed. Serah'tel stood in the entry chamber, arms down, glowing faintly. Her aura shimmered in strange waves, interfering with the drone's targeting. They sense contradiction, she said. I am no longer recognizable as Ellerin, nor human, nor Virex. I'm wrong to them, unclassified, unpredictable. And they hate unpredictable, Ryland said. One of the drones chirped and darted away, its limbs twitching faster. It's going to alert the hive, Ryland warned. I can't let them analyze me, Serah'tel said. They'll dissect the pattern, replicate it. Ryland nodded. Then we shut them down. They moved in tandem, a blur of calculated violence. Ryland fired 3 shots, each one punching through the crawler's armored eye cluster. Serah'tel vaulted over one, plunging her energy blade through its core. Sparks and ichor sprayed the walls. By the time the last drone collapsed, the chamber was silent again. Serah'tel stood over the remains, panting. Ryland checked her vitals again. You good? Yes, but it's accelerating. What is? She turned toward him. The transformation. Every conflict, every decision, shapes it. Your blood didn't just save me. It opened a door. Now everything I do moves me further from who I was. And closer to what? Ryland asked. She looked at him. To what I need to become. He stepped closer. Then let's make sure it's something worth becoming. She held his gaze. The silence that followed wasn't tense. It was heavy with understanding. Outside, in the distance, a low mechanical hum began to rise. The swarm was coming. Ryland reloaded his rifle. Serah'tel extended her blade, the edge flaring hotter. For the first time in their short alliance, there was no hesitation between them. Only purpose. Together, they stepped into the night. The swarm awakens. They move like shadows across the jungle floor, boots and bare feet barely making a sound. Ryland's rifle remained tight against his chest, barrel low, eyes up. Beside him, Serah'tel glided through the thick foliage like a hunting cat, silent, fluid, her body pulsing faintly with bioluminescent veins that mirrored her deepening transformation. The hum behind them had grown louder. Steady, mechanical, alive. The Virex are mobilizing, she whispered. They're calling their hivekin here. They sensed me. Ryland glanced at her. You said they backed off earlier. They hesitated. Now they've recalibrated. That delay is over. They crested a slope and crouched behind a rotted log, overlooking the jungle basin below. In the center stood the skeletal remains of an ancient tower, tangled in vines, leaning at an awkward tilt, but still standing. There, Ryland said. Comms relay. Maybe 60 meters tall. Looks pre-Ellerin tech. Maybe even pre-human. Serah'tel narrowed her eyes. Do you think it still works? Not fully. But even if it has a fraction of power left, I can rig a short-range burst transmission. With the right signal compression, I can elate any orbiting Recon fleet. We just have to hold it long enough for the pulse to get out. A sudden rustling above made them both spin. A swarm scout, humanoid in shape but twisted by bioengineering, dropped from the canopy. Its body was a grotesque mix of carapace and cybernetic tubing, its face an eyeless mask. Ryland squeezed the trigger. The shot hit dead center in its chest, but it barely stumbled. It lunged. Before Ryland could fire again, Serah'tel blurred forward, her energy blade extending with a whispering hiss. She drove it up through the creature's neck, splitting the skull with a single, graceful strike. The creature shuddered and collapsed. Ryland stared. That was new. She exhaled. My reflexes are amplifying. My body reacts faster than I can think. I don't even feel winded. You're not just healing anymore, he said. You're evolving. She looked down at her hand, flexing it. Yes, but I don't know the limit. Or the cost. Before he could respond, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A low, throbbing rumble spread outward like a heartbeat. Fast, relentless. They turned toward the basin. The swarm had arrived. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of Virex drones marched through the jungle, clicking and chittering, their bodies fused with bone, steel, and flesh. Some crawled on 8 legs. Others walked upright, their arms twisted into weapons. In their center towered a massive, bloated creature, a node commander. The thing pulsed like a living engine, coordinating its hive through shrieking signals. Serah'tel inhaled sharply. They brought a coordination unit. That's not a patrol. That's a full-scale purge. They're here to dissect you, Ryland said grimly. And maybe me, too. She nodded. If they reach me, they'll absorb what I've become and replicate it. Uncontrolled evolution. Contagious. It would spread through the hive in hours. Ryland scanned the tower. We hold them at the base. If we can give the relay 5 minutes, I can send a short pulse. Someone, anyone, might hear us. Serah'tel's jaw tightened. 5 minutes may be all we have left to still be ourselves. They moved, fast and low, sprinting toward the base of the tower. Vines had wrapped around the foundation, but the structure still hummed faintly with power, ancient but alive. Ryland dropped to one knee, cracking open a rusted access panel. His fingers worked fast, rerouting decades-old conduits and rerunning software loops. Serah'tel stood over him, scanning the tree line. 3 minutes, maybe less. The first wave came in a blur of clicking limbs and mechanical shrieks. Ryland didn't look up. I'm counting on you. I know. She stepped forward, and something changed. She didn't just fight, she flowed. Her body blurred in and out of motion, twisting through the air with impossible precision. Her blade arced in silver crescents. Each strike landed with lethal grace. Every limb that reached for her was severed, every leap intercepted. Sparks and ichor filled the air. The Virex hesitated. Even the node paused, unsure. She wasn't like anything they'd seen. Behind her, Ryland connected the final relay. The panel flickered to life. Come on, he muttered. Give me one shot. He typed furiously, constructing a compressed distress signal embedded with his ID, coordinates, and a visual of the swarm force. The screen beeped. Signal locked. Burst in 142. Serah, he called, hold. More swarm drones poured in. The node shrieked, an unholy, echoing sound that made Ryland's teeth ache. Serah'tel stumbled as the sound hit her mind like a hammer. They're trying to override my mind, she gasped. They sense a pattern, want to imprint it, overwrite it. Ryland grabbed his rifle and fired into the node speaker vents. Sparks burst from its throat, the scream faltering. Serah'tel surged forward, both hands glowing with energy. She stabbed into the node's chest and released a wave of bioelectric force. It exploded in a cascade of light and wet screeching metal. Silence fell. Only a few drones twitched in the underbrush, directionless now, disoriented. Rylan looked up. The screen blinked. Signal sent. He exhaled. We did it. Serah'tel dropped to her knees, panting. Barely. Rylan rushed to her, checking for injuries. You okay? She looked up, her glowing eyes softening. No, but I'm still me. For now. The jungle buzzed with distant echoes. More would come. But for the first time, hope pulsed in the air. A signal was on its way. The hybrid flame. The jungle burned behind them. Black smoke twisted upward through the trees, glowing orange in the dusk. The comms tower still stood, scorched but intact. The swarm remnants had scattered with the death of their node commander, but the victory felt thin, temporary. Rylan tightened the straps on his gear and scanned the tree line. No movement, no sound. Only Serah'tel's labored breathing broke the stillness. He crouched beside her, pulling out his last injector of stabilizer. You need this. She waved it off. It won't work anymore. Rylan hesitated. What do you mean? My body no longer responds to synthetic stabilizers. It's rejected every compound I used to rely on. My systems, my DNA, it's still changing. She met his eyes, and it's accelerating. Rylan's fingers clenched around the injector. Can you stop it? She gave a slow, uncertain shake of her head. No, but I think I can steer it. They had taken shelter in the remains of a crashed Ellerin transport ship near the ridge. It offered enough cover, enough quiet, for now. Serah'tel leaned against a wall panel. Her skin no longer glowed softly, it shimmered. The patterns along her arms and neck were intricate now, like vines of light moving beneath the surface. Her voice held a resonance it hadn't before, something layered, deeper. You remember when I said blood is sacred to my people, she said. Yeah, it's more than tradition. Our neural systems carry genetic memory. Trauma, knowledge, even instinct is passed through bloodlines. She looked down at her wrist. By taking your blood, I didn't just absorb cells. I absorbed impulses, emotions, patterns of choice. Rylan frowned. You mean, like personality traits? She nodded slowly. Courage, defiance, fury, hope. Your biology doesn't submit. It pushes forward, even in death. That trait is rewriting my instincts. She paused, studying him. You, Rylan Voss, you're more than a soldier. Your kind carries the flame of resistance at the molecular level. He shifted uncomfortably. I'm just a guy who didn't want to let someone die. No, she said softly. You're something else. And now, so am I. He didn't speak for a moment. The air felt heavy, like the quiet after a storm. I need to know something, he said finally. This transformation, if it spreads, what does it mean for your people? For the rest of the galaxy? Serah'tel's gaze dropped. It will challenge everything. The Ellerin have built a culture around control, of emotion, of change, of identity. What's happening to me is anathema to that. And the Virex, they evolve through conquest. They steal biology and force it to obey. But this is shared, voluntary, mutually adaptive. If they get hold of it, they'll twist it, assimilate it into their hive, spread it like a plague. So we're standing between two ends of a spectrum, Rylan said. Sterile tradition on one side, mindless consumption on the other. She nodded. And the middle is chaos. He looked out through a crack in the wall, toward the distant stars. Good thing humanity thrives in chaos. She smiled faintly. I'm beginning to believe that. Suddenly, a tone sounded from Rylan's wristcom. He looked down. The display flickered, grainy, weak, but unmistakable. UHF beacon response detected. Source, Allied Recon Vessel. ETA, 17 hours. Rylan exhaled. Someone heard us. Serah'tel's posture sagged with relief. Then there's hope. He tapped the display again, pulling up the map. There's a high-altitude plateau 2 clicks east. Open sky. Perfect for evac if we can hold it. She nodded. We'll make it. But Rylan saw the strain behind her eyes. Tell me the truth, he said. How long do you have before this, whatever it is, changes you completely? I don't know, she whispered. But I can feel the boundary inside me thinning. The line between who I was and what I'm becoming. The more I fight, the faster it shifts. Then don't fight, he said. Steer it. Shape it. Make it yours. She stared at him. A single act of kindness, and you may have altered the fate of 2 species. He chuckled dryly. That's how it goes. Save a life, start a revolution. They gathered what they could from the wreck, supplies, weapons cells, rations. Ryland found an old Ellerin datapad, cracked but salvageable. Serah'tel synced to it effortlessly, her glowing fingertips sparking data across the screen. Your neural interface is rewriting command permissions, he observed. It recognizes me as higher than Ellerin now, she said. Not because of my name, but because of my adaptive rank. I'm becoming a living override. As the stars brightened overhead, they moved toward the plateau, sticking to the ridgelines, avoiding the deeper jungle. The Virex wouldn't stay disoriented forever. Ryland walked in silence beside her, watching the way the light shimmered off her skin, how her movements blended precision and grace. She was no longer just a survivor. She was becoming something new, and he had helped spark it. But as they neared the clearing, Serah'tel stumbled. He caught her before she hit the ground. Serah. I'm fine, she gasped. Just systems balancing. My senses are expanding too fast. I can hear the hive in fragments. Feel their neural static crawling through the roots of the planet. He eased her down onto a rock. Her breath slowed. I won't let them take this, she whispered. This gift. This potential. I'll burn it to ash before I let them twist it. Ryland touched her shoulder. They won't, he said. We'll get off this planet. We'll make sure the right people see what you are. She looked at him, eyes glowing bright like twin stars. Then let the galaxy prepare. Last stand at the signal tower. The wind howled across the high plateau. It tore through broken trees and jagged stone outcrops, carrying ash and spores and the sharp scent of ozone. Above, the sky cracked with lightning, not from a storm, but from the energy wake of ships breaching low orbit. Something was coming. Ryland adjusted his rifle strap and surveyed the cliffside clearing. The old uplink spire stood crooked at the plateau's edge, its dish angled toward the stars, blinking weakly. Beside it, a rusted landing pad jutted from the stone like a broken limb. This is the highest point for miles, he said. Clear LZ. No tree cover, but we'll see them coming. Serah'tel stepped to the edge and gazed into the clouds below. Her skin shimmered brighter than ever now, like starlight trapped in flesh. She barely resembled the woman he'd found bleeding in the jungle days ago. They're already coming, she murmured. I can feel the tremor in the hive. They're converging. Ryland checked his comm again. Evac vessel ETA, 53 minutes. We just need to hold this spot. 1 hour, tops. Serah'tel didn't reply. She turned slowly, eyes unfocused, and pressed her palm against the tower's interface node. The machine chirped. A flood of ancient data flickered across her vision, unlocked instantly. Her link was no longer biological alone. It was symbiotic. The swarm has adapted to my presence, she said. They've changed tactics. They are no longer sending scouts. They are sending harvesters. Ryland tensed. Meaning? Units designed not just to kill, but to take. Assimilate. Feed. A chill passed over him, despite the heat. We'll stop them, he said. Together. She met his eyes and gave a faint nod. But there was hesitation behind it, something he hadn't seen in her since the transfusion. Ryland, she said, if I lose control, if the hive breaches my mind, kill me. He stared at her. No, I'm serious. So am I. She stepped closer. This, whatever I'm becoming, it's powerful, yes, but it's not stable. The swarm could replicate it, multiply it, infect whole worlds with it. If it spreads the wrong way, it'll burn across the stars. I won't let that happen, he said, but I'm not going to kill the one person who risked everything to change. Lightning cracked overhead. The sound of claws scraping stone rose up from below, and then the first of them appeared. Not the small drones they'd fought before. These were different, taller, hunched, heavily armored, with jagged limbs and glowing chest cores. Biomechanical behemoths bred not just for battle, but for harvesting. 3 crested the ridge. Ryland raised his rifle. Contact, front. He fired 3 bursts, clean shots. 1 dropped, twitching, but the other 2 barreled forward, shrugging off the impacts. Serah'tel moved with inhuman speed. She twisted past one, slicing its knee joint with a bladed arc of energy. The limb snapped. As it fell, she drove a pulsing spear of light through its core. The third creature leapt toward Ryland. He dodged, rolled, came up firing. The shots burned holes through its neck, then a final one through the skull. They fell still. Silence followed, for half a second. Then the ground shook. More shadows emerged. A dozen, maybe 2. Crawlers, harvesters, airborne leeches. Ryland swore. "We can't hold this." "We don't have to," Serah'tel said. "We just have to delay." She moved forward, faster now. Her steps cracked stone. Her body surged with energy, every movement wrapped in light. Her blade burned like a sun. And then she screamed. Not in pain, but in power. A resonant pulse blasted outward from her chest. The first wave of enemies collapsed, limbs convulsing. Ryland staggered back, shielding his face. What was that? She turned, eyes like stars. A frequency burst. Not just sound, intention. I'm rewriting their neural rhythms. More swarm soldiers approached, slower this time. Uncertain, her presence disoriented them. "They don't recognize me anymore," she said. "I'm outside their pattern now. Too fluid to classify. Then let's make them regret ever trying." Together they held the ridge, 1 second at a time. Serah'tel danced through them like a living weapon. Her blade tore through steel and bone. She bled light with every strike. Ryland fought beside her, grounded, methodical. He covered the flanks, picking off the fast ones, driving back the harvesters. But the swarm was endless. After 15 minutes, Ryland's ammo read 5%. "Running low," he called. Serah'tel's glow flickered. Her breathing grew shallow. "They are adapting again. I can feel it." Below them, a new shape emerged. A massive creature, more machine than flesh, dragging itself up the cliffside. Its head bristled with antennae and eyes. Its arms split into jagged limbs. In its center, a hollow cavity opened and closed like a mouth. "That's a hive carrier," Serah'tel said. "If it absorbs me." Ryland stepped between her and the ridge. "It won't." She touched his shoulder. "You won't stop it. But I can." He turned. "Serah, I'm going to burn it out," she said. "All of it." Her hands pulsed with energy. Her body began to fracture with light. Her voice shook. "This power, this form, I can give it purpose. Just long enough to destroy the connection." "No," Ryland said, grabbing her arm. "We're too close. Help's almost here. If I don't do this, they'll reach the evac ship, infect it, and then everything we've done, everything we became, will be twisted into a weapon." He stared at her, then nodded once. "Just promise you'll come back." She stepped toward the edge, the wind rising around her. "I'll try." And then she jumped. She fell like a meteor, trailing fire. She struck the hive carrier at full force, an explosion of light that split the sky. For one breathless moment, the entire plateau went still. Then the swarm collapsed. Every creature fell, twitching, screaming, then silent. And the signal tower blinked green. Evac confirmed. Ryland fell to his knees, watching the fires burn below. She was gone, but the world was quiet. The blood that binds. The evac ship descended like a falling star, its hull gleaming against the smoke-stained sky. Ryland stood alone at the edge of the plateau, wind tugging at his torn jacket. The jungle below still glowed with dying embers. The hive was gone, the swarm silenced. And Serah'tel, she was gone too. The last time he saw her, she had been light incarnate, a living flare crashing into the heart of the enemy. No body remained, no voice, just that lingering pulse in the back of his mind. like the echo of a dream refusing to fade. The dropship's side hatch hissed open. A human officer stepped out first, flanked by 2 armored medics. Behind them came 3 Ellerin scientists in pale robes, eyes wide, taking in the devastation around them. One of them clutched a glowing data core. Ryland didn't move. "Lieutenant Ryland Voss," the officer called. He nodded, slowly. "You're a damn ghost. We picked up your signal burst just as command marked you KIA." Ryland looked past him toward the open ship. "She didn't make it," he said quietly. The officer frowned. "She? You mean the alien you encoded in the message?" Ryland's jaw tightened. "Her name was Serah'tel. She was Ellerin, mostly." The Ellerins stepped forward now. Their leader, a tall woman with dark silver eyes, extended a small scanner toward Ryland. "We detected a strong bioanomaly in your vitals, Lieutenant. Your blood chemistry has shifted." "I figured," he said. "May we run a full spectrum analysis?" He didn't answer at first. Then he extended his arm. "Knock yourself out." She scanned him in silence. The device blinked, buzzed, then froze. "Incredible," she whispered. "His system carries layered code. Ellerin sequences threaded with human resistance markers, and something else. A shared hybrid memory lattice." The human officer raised an eyebrow. "In English." Ryland glanced toward the crater below. "She gave me some of herself before she jumped. I think she meant for me to carry the rest." "She implanted something in you?" the officer asked, suddenly wary. "No," Ryland said. "She trusted me." The Ellerin scientist lowered her scanner, stunned. "This is impossible. You should be dead. The overlap is too unstable." "Tell that to my heartbeat," Ryland said flatly. The officer folded his arms. "So what are you now, Lieutenant?" He looked up at the clouds. A message. They brought him aboard. The interior of the evac ship was quiet, sterile, clinical. The medics tried to draw blood. His veins resisted, not out of defiance, but instinct. The hybrid biology inside him didn't want to be separated again. It was cohesive, a new kind of unity. They ran scans. Dozens. All inconclusive. What he carried, what they had become, didn't fit into categories. Human and alien. Chaos and control. It was a third path. One born not through war or conquest, but choice. He rested in a quiet cabin near the medical bay. Outside the small window, the planet shrank behind them, clouds and smoke rolling away into atmosphere. The Ellerin scientist returned the next morning. "We've reviewed the genetic data," she said, "and the telemetry from the uplink tower. The moment she activated her burst, your vitals spiked." He turned to face her. "I know. I felt it. We believe she didn't die." Ryland sat upright. "What?" "She didn't survive in the way you understand it. But her essence, her neural matrix, was transferred, stored, and possibly imprinted onto you." He touched his chest. "You're saying she's inside me?" "No, not entirely. But something is. Memory, maybe. Core instincts. Emotional patterns." "She anchored herself," Ryland whispered. The Ellerin hesitated. "There's more." She opened a small holodisplay. Dozens of signals glowed across a galactic map. 2 days ago, other Ellerin colonies began reporting strange phenomena. Individuals waking with enhanced reflexes, sensory changes, altered immune responses. "Some are human, some not." "Spreading?" he asked. "Yes, but not virally, not biologically. Something deeper, like resonance. A shared frequency triggered by exposure to your signal. A conceptual infection." Ryland leaned back, trying to process it. "What you and Serah'tel became," the scientist continued, "isn't just a mutation. It's a blueprint." "For what?" he asked. She met his eyes. "A new kind of life." He stared through the glass. And for the first time since she vanished, he didn't feel alone. 1 week later, deep orbit, human Ellerin research vessel. Ryland stood at the observation deck, dressed in loose gray fatigues, staring out at a binary star system. The light cast long shadows across the floor. Footsteps behind him. "I didn't think you'd come back," he said. A voice responded, familiar and strange, layered with resonance. I didn't either. He turned. There she stood. Serah'tel, or something like her. Her form shimmered, translucent yet solid. Not projection, not illusion. She had no physical vessel, but she existed. Not flesh, not code, but memory and pattern anchored to living biology, anchored to him. Yo, he whispered. She smiled faintly. Part of me never left. I thought I lost you. I was lost, but your blood remembered me. Your defiance kept the pattern alive. I found a way back. He stepped closer. Is this real? She touched his chest. Her hand was warm, as real as anything built on trust. He closed his eyes. The universe had tried to define them, by species, by duty, by fear. But what they'd become was something no protocol could predict. They were proof that life didn't have to conquer or comply. It could choose to connect.